Hello, welcome to the Bronze League. I am Mongoose. This is my new weekly stream that I will be hopefully doing every Monday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. My goal with this stream is to turn off the music, so I'm not talking over it. My goal with this stream is to give out the tools and knowledge necessary to drag people out of MMR hell, get out of those bronze leagues, get out of those silver leagues, and go ahead and get yourself into gold. A little background about myself. I'm not going to do this every stream, but since this is the first one, I'll go ahead and give this out. Never played any MOBAs before, started Heroes in the beta, was really bad at it. In the preseason, I placed at rank 48 through watching podcasts and streamers and pro games and playing a lot and really focusing on my own play. I was able to grind out rank 11 by the end. Was one game away from rank 10. And last year in Season 1, I placed into Gold 2, went to Gold 1, ended up at Gold 2 again. Well, welcome to the chat. We're going to do this very shortly. And early part of this year, Nostromia, the Russian Grandmaster streamer, took a bronze account and dragged it out of bronze into diamond. She went something like 42 or 44-1 in bronze and silver league, and just kind of really put a focus on this debate of the existence of MMR hell. And I saw a lot of, well, if she's a grandmaster, of course she can carry in bronze. Regular guys can't do that. So that got me thinking, I'm a regular guy. I'm a gold level player. My brother is a very casual Heroes of the Storm player. He has about 600 games on his account, and he was constantly saying, I'm stuck in bronze, I can't get out, it's my teammates. And I was telling him, David, you don't play enough, you don't focus enough on it. If it's important to you, you'll get out. You have to focus on your play. And so our experiment with him was I would take his account for Season 2, and only I would play his ranked on his account. Well, we're 11 games into that experiment. In the 10 placement games as a gold player, I went 9-1 with 4 MVPs, and I placed him from bronze 3 to silver 2 in 10 placement games. So you can do it. I grinded out the old-fashioned way, and with the placement games, if you really improve your game, you can absolutely utilize that soft reset, get yourself out of that bronze, get up into silver, get up into gold. And that's what we're going to try to do today. So in addition to this, I also am streaming those bronze, now silver games that I'm playing on my brother's account. And I also cast a couple Chair League games a week, so check that out. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. So we do have a submitted replay from somebody I touched bases with in Reddit, and that's Obi-Wan. So Obi will be our hero we'll focus on today. I have not watched this replay yet, so we're going to all watch it together for the first time. So something I'm going to talk about is there's two kinds of skills when you play heroes. There's mechanical skills, that's hitting your skill shots, stutter stepping, positioning, which is a little bit knowledge too, but mechanical skills you can't really improve upon. That's really something that you're going to improve upon through practice and gameplay. But we're going to focus on this more than mechanical skills is knowledge, evaluating the game situation, making decisions, and taking advantage of the environment of Bronze and Silver League to allow you to climb out of them while not learning bad habits that are going to hurt you as you climb the ladder. So one of the things... Might game up, volume down. Thanks, Mitch. One of the things that... let's try this. Let me know if the mic's better. I just moved it a little closer. One of the things I wish they had in the replay that they don't is how the draft went, because then I could talk about drafting a little bit. So without that knowledge, I'm not going to speak to it too much, but I am going to talk about team comps and draft right now just a little bit. By going ahead and taking a look at our two teams. So our hero for today is Obi-Wan on Zool. The first thing I noticed about both of these teams is when you're drafting in a solo environment, which is what we're talking about, Hero League is largely a solo environment, you want to draft teams that allow you to develop chemistry easily. So you don't have you'll hear this on Into the Nexus a lot, the burden of execution. You want to have it make it so your team is simply easier to execute what needs to be done than the opposing teams. The easiest teams to execute are in solo environment or generally is a traditional heroes comp, which is one primary tank, one primary healer, a secondary frontliner. That can be another tank, that can be a melee assassin, that can be Zul. Another primary range damage dealer, and then your fifth spot, your wild card. That could kind of be anything, but really you only want the two melees to focus on your front line. So that fifth person could be a specialist, it could be another range damage dealer. And both of these comps fit that perfectly. So taking a look at our blue team, we have our primary tank in ETC. Our second frontliner is the Butcher. We have Karazim as our primary healer. We have Jaina as our primary damage dealer, and Sylvanas is our wild card. She's our number 5. She's our specialist. And on the red team, we have primary tank as Dahaka. We have Zul as the second frontliner. We have 2 range damage dealers in Chromie and Vala, so one of those would be your primary damage dealer, and one of them would be your kind of fifth wild card. And these two are kind of nice because you have a burst damage dealer in Chromie and more of a sustained damage dealer in Vala. And then, of course, you have your healer in Brightwing. So if you can, in Hero League, ideally, this is the comp you want to get. 2 frontliners, a healer, a backliner, and a fifth wildcard, specialist, whatever. That's not always possible. And when you're drafting, the number one thing you want to ask yourself before you draft a hero, especially if you're drafting 4th or 5th, is are all the roles covered? If you're drafting 4th or 5th, your team is expecting you to fill out the tank and the healer if needed. The second thing you want to ask yourself, and these are the 2 most important things over anything else, play what you're good at. If Sylvanas is broken on Infernal Shrines, but you don't play Sylvanas, it doesn't do any good for your team to pick her. You want to play heroes you're good at. So make sure your team's roles are filled out and play heroes you're good at. After those 2 primary considerations, then you can start thinking about counterpicking or map picks, but mainly more than anything else, make sure your team's roles are covered and pick heroes you're good at. All right, so let's jump into this game. We're going to focus on Zul. Let's find out which one our Zul is here. Where is he? There he is. There is our Zul. There, we will zoom out. So we're going to focus on Zul. We're only going to have Zul's vision. And let's go ahead and get this underway. So Zul's best ability is fast wave clear and raising the skeletons that put extra pressure on the lanes. And extra pressure is more minions for the enemy to clear out and more minions to soak up tower shots and do damage in lane. He can be a solo laner, but he is most ideally used rotating between 2 lanes. He clears them so fast that on most maps he can cover 2 lanes. Sky Temple is not one of those maps. It's the largest map in the game until Warhead Junction comes out tomorrow. And the lanes are really too far for him to rotate effectively between lanes. At high levels, they might be able to do it. At a bronze or a silver league, it's really not something you're going to try to accomplish. So Zul's going to be largely staying in one lane here. This is a silver 4 game, by the way. For those of you who want to know. So it looks like the opposition here chose to put pressure on the bottom with the Sylve. Anytime you have Sylve on the opposing team, you need to expect the tower rush. If you rotate quickly enough, you can mitigate the damage. Let's go back and look at that Bone Prism again. We might have been able to pick a more ideal target for that Bone Prism there. Let's go back just a little bit. Okay, so our Zul comes in here to defend the bottom lane. He's got Chromie directly behind him. Chromie and Zul are fun. As a Chromie player, I love having a Zul on my team, especially if the other team doesn't pick Cleanse. That Bone Prism that Zul puts up is a massive target. Yeah, I know, but for observational purposes, Mitch, you really need to do this camera locked. So Ideally, if we can get to Kharazim, that's the person we want to get to, but I don't think we're going to get out to him. So I think we would try to get Butcher here because he's forward. So if we would have blocked a Butcher here, I think he ends up getting Sylvanas. But if we got Butcher to line up for Chromie with the Haka right there, you guys might have been able to get the Butcher here. Now, I know generally you want to get Sylvanas because that's the squishier target. I think their Butcher may have been the better target, but that's very minor stuff. So Zool should definitely be in this bottom lane on Sky Temple. You want to put as much pressure on this bottom temple as possible to set up the second temple phase. That second temple phase, if you can get your opponent's teams well, that's really important. Chromie is way too far forward here. Zool has limited tools with which to spawn, and Butcher is a really good Chromie counter. She should have had a time trap in front of her or near her to prevent that. So the temples are activating, and currently neither Zool nor Kharazim nor Chromie none of these players are rotating up to temple, leaving their opponents to go after. Now, I don't mind Zool staying here, and if I were one of his teammates, I would want Zool to stay down here. But Chromie, I would want to go up to the top lane, and that's what's happening. So Obi-Wan is going up. I would have preferred him to stay down here. Your team is already splitting the temples, so that way you can put pressure on that bottom lane to set it up for the second temple phase. Okay, this is an excellent example of map awareness and decision making. Let's go back just a little bit so we can check out the minimap. Because this looks like a taking a fight at a disadvantage. Anytime you're taking a fight, there needs to be a goal or something you're going to gain, and you should never take a fight at a disadvantage unless the game is absolutely on the line. Okay, pause here. We're going to look at the minimap before going in here. We see only Butcher in the top lane, and you have two people, including your healer and your tank, in the top lane. So you're going in here with no vision, and it's very hard to contest the mid-temple without vision. Your enemy team has the vision. They know anything coming around them. So you have a Chromie, a Vala, and a Zool attacking into a situation where you have to assume that all four members of the enemy team are here because only Butcher is visible. So this is not an engagement that our hero here, Obi-Wan's team, should have taken. And I would not be surprised if it goes very poorly. This is a 4-on-3 where the enemy team has more vision here. You're coming into a defended territory. And there you go. Vala almost dead, Zool almost dead, and they just very quickly ran back. Now, I will say, at least they didn't stick around. Chromie poking is not a bad idea. I still want to see Obi-Wan go down to the bottom lane here. And Chromie, yeah, I mean, you're both just in situations where nothing good is going to happen by being there.
And now, I make my exit.
See, now we're going to go talk about that decision to go up to mid in the first place. I said I wanted him to stay down there. You ended up doing exactly what we said we were going to do. The teams had almost already decided to split the objectives. So you rotated to mid, there was an engagement where nothing was accomplished, and that whole time you could have had Zool pushing the bottom lane by himself. His team would definitely be at least even and probably ahead in level in addition to whatever damage he got done on that bottom lane. So if I were Zool, I would have notified the team, I'm going to stay bottom during this first temple phase, and they split it effectively enough. Nobody from red team should have gone to that middle temple. They all could have gone top, and Zool could have stayed bottom and safely split soak. And now Zool should definitely win a lane against, well, not both Sylv and Kharazim, of course, but against Kharazim. So you got to be very careful here, especially the enemy team has a Butcher, and he's not on the map. So you really can't go too far forward and get at risk of getting picked off by Butcher. There you go. Now he's showing mid lane. Even with Sylv, this is a matchup I think Zool should win with the spawns. So be a little aggressive, especially now you have Dahaka here. Oh, and if the Sylvanas is chasing you, you know your Dahaka is right here. Run this way. Run your Sylv into your Dahaka. Bait him up there. Then the two of you can turn on him. So if you're going to withdraw and Sylvanas is aggressively pursuing you, withdraw towards your teammate. As soon as Dahaka appears, that Sylvanas is going to disengage. So run towards your teammate. Because if you would have ran towards your teammate, you could have tongued her, you could have probably bone prisoned her if it was off the cooldown. Now I want to see Dahaka and Zul really push this thing forward. Between the two of them, even with Sylv there, they should be able to get some work done. Now the red team is choosing to push in the top lane. That's fine. You want to trade them top to bottom, is fine. This bottom lane is more important because the temple is going to spawn here. So something to be aware of, you really want to get level 7 before this fight happens, which you're close enough to do. Something we see happen at lower tiers a lot is showing up to objectives low on life and low on mana. Being topped off and ready to go for what is sure to be a team fight is so important. You really want to show up topped off in health and life if you can. It's not always possible, but it's something to be aware of. Don't blow those high cooldown, high mana cost abilities to push the lane further if you don't need to do it. It's the soak that's really the important thing. So something Hobie needs to be aware of is we have zero vision on the enemy team, none whatsoever other than Sylvanas. And the rest of his team is pretty far away. And I think Dahaka just uses global, so I think he might be running down here the long way. So he needs to be very careful until his either A, team gets down here, or B, his opponents show themselves so he knows where they are. On the other side, you have an ETC and a Butcher. That's a pick waiting to happen if you're by yourself and you overextend. So I want to see Obi-Wan be very conservative here until his enemy reveals themselves or until his teammates get down here. See, this is too far forward. If you're assuming that, there it is. If you assume Butcher and ETC are coming for you, this is what's going to happen. Now, if ETC was there, he's for sure getting picked. For sure getting picked. Now we have a little bit of a funky engagement. Dahaka is really far forward. And this is an engagement that red team shouldn't be taking. They are 5-on-4, and there we go, that's why. So one of the things, dropped something here. When you watch pro games as a recreational player, it's hard to take what they do and apply it to your own bronze or silver or gold league game because those guys are so good and they're coordinated. One of the things, and I think more than anything else you can take from them, is you don't have to win every objective. If you're at a disadvantage and you're going to lose the objective anyway, it is better to surrender the objective, not die, and go do something else productive. So from our opposing team here, they're 5-on-3. They should go do something else, at the very least, until their team is up. The death timers are short enough to where they might be able to withdraw, maybe go get a merc camp and come back with their full team. But they really shouldn't be pressing a 5-on-3 under their opponent's towers. That's a nice way to lose a team fight here. Yep, and they are withdrawing, as they should. See, Butcher should not turn around here. The Butcher just got himself killed for nothing. There you go. That was a silly engagement. Now what you should be doing here is you should leave one person who can sustain on this, and the rest of the team should be creating a nice zone here so you don't get jumped. That's a lot of vision you're missing right here. Somebody should be up here to give teams the vision. There you go. And this is a really good decision by their opponents. And this is exactly what I just said they should do. You've lost the objective. That's okay. Give your opponent the objective, and they're giving up the objective, and instead they're doing something productive. They're using Sylvanas, and they're going to go attack another fort. So our team here can get the objective, and the opposition is conceding it and doing something productive. There's nothing wrong with that. They may get similar value out of taking this fort than you would at this objective. That's a very excellent decision by the red team here. this is not a bad response. You rotate 4 up, you leave the Haka there. And the reason it's not a bad response is you have vision on enough of the enemy team to where Dahaka's probably going to be okay by himself. In the process, with this strong rotation, you just saved your fort. So that was a good team decision making on the part of our Obi-Wan's team. They do need to be aware now of the fact that they were at a disadvantage. Dahaka kind of went really, really far forward. That's a skill shot that Chromie needs to hit right there, for sure. So you get a pick on your Kharazim. You either need to split down to lanes and soak 10, or just push out this middle lane. You guys see Butcher at the bottom. A 5-man push mid here is not a bad idea. You have Zul and his skeletons. You have your healer here. You have your tank here. So our Zul communicated to his teammate that he's going to go... Oh, there goes Chromie. I wonder what happened. Let's go find out what happened to Chromie there, because that didn't seem like that would be a situation where that would happen. Oh, a little bit too far. Okay, let's see what happens to our Chromie here. Zul rotating top to clear out that top lane is not a terrible idea at all. I mean, that lane was pushed far forward. You're not quite 10 yet. You're going to get the experience too. But I am very curious to what happened to our Chromie here. Because everything's good for our hero here. We've got a little 5-on-4 here because Butcher just showed up in the bottom lane. So you have an advantage here. You're going to pick off the enemy team's healer. You're up 1 level. This is a good place to push or take that fight. But let's see. So our Chromie sticks around, and she eats a Jaina Blizzard, and what gets her? Is it a Butcher coming out of nowhere? Does she go too far forward? Oh, no, Chromie. Chromie has no mobility and no escape. She just fed herself to Jaina. That was really poorly done. That is a perfect example of how not to Chromie. As Chromie, you need to be as far back as you can with safely doing damage, especially with the Butcher on the enemy team. If you get in close with the Jaina, Jaina's going to wreck you. You want to stay far back. So right now we see 3 enemies visible on the map. Butcher is the one who just soloed that camp. You have 10, they don't. This is where you want to take advantage of something. So, I mean, Kharazim's not going to be able to push Zul back. Looks like they're grouping here, that's fine. Now Butcher was soloed both bottom camps, and the enemy team has reached 10, and we've lost the advantage that we have. This is a very tricky place to be for Obi-Wan. Now Butcher ended up in the bottom lane, but when he made that aggressive rotation, there was no help, and you had no sight on Butcher. So you got to be really careful. Zul's one of those characters that doesn't have an escape, so you really can't put yourself in a tough situation like that. Nothing is going to end up happening out of it, but you want to make sure that you don't put yourself in situations like that for no good reason. Chromie almost gets... Butcher is split pushing this game, so that means he's really focusing on farming his stacks. Now your whole enemy team has caught Butcher. You guys really need to kill him. Nice Bone Prism. The problem is you guys don't really have a damage dealer here, so you're kind of just slowly wearing him down. Nice, nice.
It will take more than
Now I'm curious here why Obi-Wan left his team. I guess to help Zul clear bottom. They had kind of a funky rotation there here. So far this is a pretty close game. Our team is slightly behind because they've lost 2 forts, but pretty dead even in level. So when you have 2 forts spawn like this, if the boss is up, ideally you want to get the bottom one because it gives you more control and more vision on the boss easily. If you have the top one and you don't pay attention, your enemy team can steal the boss. So in this situation, I want this whole enemy team down here, and in the process you can actually push this lane out here too. Chromie needs to come down here and be with the team. I guess she's soaking that mid lane, and that's not terrible, but not really what she does best. But really not the end of the world, as long as she doesn't do anything silly. See, now she needs to come down here because she doesn't have vision on anybody. And they're Sylve split pushing because they know everybody is at bottom. That Sylve has good awareness, taking that top fort out while the rest of our team, excuse me, is bottom here. This is a very scary situation right here. You have your two squishiest characters in Valla and Chromie out kind of on their own in the middle of the map. The other team has a Butcher and an ETC, which is kind of a two-man gank squad, and you don't have any vision on there. Now, you're assuming that they're right here, and they probably are, but they could very easily not be there, or you could have ETC and Jaina off somewhere else while Butcher is soloing this temple. So Valla and Chromie here need to be very, very careful. I assume they're going to try to rotate safely. If they're going to come up here to defend the Sylve, you always, as a squishy character, want to go safely. So go this way. Do not go through the vision in the temple. That's just asking to get yourself killed. So Obi-Wan is trying to counteract Sylve's push with a push of his own. What did I just say on the ETC? Look who found Valla right there. ETC found him. And then our Dahaka went global to top to try to get Sylve, who is really, really low, I assume, from Chromie. So we hopefully will secure the Sylve. If the rest of this team comes down bottom, though, you're going to have a 5-on-3 in the bottom. I'm kind of interested to see how this turns out.
And so the light fades from my temple.
Brightwing needs to not go this way. We already established we have our tank and our main damage dealer top. They can't come down. You know that the enemy team has 4 people in the mid lane right here. I would be very surprised if Brightwing doesn't die here. There you go. See, and that's a map awareness thing. That is 100% a map awareness thing. You knew exactly where 4 members of the enemy team were. And remember how I just said rotate safely when these 2 characters went to top? Instead, they rotated aggressively. If these 3 players, all 3 of them, would have went this way, instead of going this way, they're probably alive. They're probably alive. Instead, you have a Butcher charge, a Lamb to the Slaughter, a Mosh Pit, and you're probably going to have... Ironically, it was Brightling who rotated the most aggressively, and he may be the only one that gets out alive. You got to be aware of where the enemy team is and rotate accordingly. That was 100% a map awareness kills there. Ironically, Brightwing is the one calling it out when Brightwing's poor rotation is what caused that to happen in the first place. See, your teammates right now are calling it out, or Obi-Wan's teammates. See, Valla actually sees it. Your teammates are calling out 3v4 like they engaged. They did not engage. They rotated poorly and got caught. Valla actually sees it. I tried to go around the safe way this way, and when Brightwing got caught, Valla went in there and dived. Ironically, Brightwing got out alive. So that wasn't a 3v4 engagement. That was a poor rotation that ended them getting picked.
Cycle of being begins
Now,
anew.
for the sake of discussion, 3 members of our team went down here to check this boss, right? Let's just say that our opponents were down here, all 5 of them trying to do the boss off those 2 kills. What's going to happen when Chromie and Brightwing and Dahaka fight the entirety of the enemy team 5-on-3? They're going to get killed, probably. So I wouldn't have checked the boss, because even if they're there, there's really not anything you can do about it, just the 3 of you. If you want to wait with the short death timers and then check it as 5 once you're all together, that's fine. But coming down here, 3 people, hoping to catch the enemy team bossing is an accident waiting to happen. Alright, well, let's get back on our Azul here. So we have Dahaka trying to solo a camp. Now his teammates are coming to help him. So the team is grouping, and that's good. And you can see the majority of the enemy team. And now you see they're heading toward boss. This Chromie, this is a situation you never, ever want to be in as Chromie. Within charge distance of Butcher by herself. She's going to die very quickly if Butcher has his stuff off cooldown. Oops, let's unlock and go back down here. So Chromie sees what I see, which is the enemy team looks like they're rotating down to boss. So she comes down here. your team comes up here. So what should you do? If you're Chromie and you see the enemy team is probably going to boss, what should you do? Well, you should ping down there. You should let your team check boss. They're going boss. If they don't go down there, you don't go down there. And this is the stuff that kind of happens at the bronze and the silvers. Sometimes you just, even though you know it's the wrong decision, you just got to roll with it. So if Chromie is telling her team, which it doesn't look like she is, but let's say she was telling her team to come down here and go to the boss, and they don't, they do something else instead, you can't go down here by yourself. What are you going to accomplish? Nothing, and you'll probably die too. So Chromie in particular, of all characters, with an ETC and a Butcher on the other team, really needs to be with her squad pretty much all the time. So she's trying to use her Q to check safely, and now they're pinging down here. But Chromie can't go down here by herself. That's why Chromie cannot be down here by herself. She had the right idea. It looked like the other team was coming down here to do boss. There's nothing wrong with wanting to go down there and check, but you can't check as Chromie by yourself. There's very few characters that could have gone down there by themselves to check, and Chromie is probably dead last on the list. See, now you put your team at a disadvantage. Can you even come down here to check 5 on 4? Probably not. Probably not. And now we've got a little bit of salt coming out too, and we've got our team split into 2 groups, not really doing much productive.
The light of the sun grows on the mountains.
Look, we have 2 different things going on. Obviously, the enemy team is capturing the boss, and you probably can't stop them from doing so. See, and Vala says the right thing. We're at a disadvantage. You can't do the boss. Okay, something I want Obi-Wan to work on here. When you're fighting the giants in lanes like that, those boulders really hurt, and you can tell by looking at his health bar, but you can dodge them. So move, stutter step, auto attack, and then move somewhere else. When you see those giants throw the boulders at you, move, don't let them hit you. They hurt a lot. All this damage is solely from the giants right here. Okay, so now we've got a really tough situation. We've got a boss bearing down bottom lane. I think Dahaka just used his burrow to get to top. What do we do? Chances are the enemy team is going to go to the bottom temple because it's closer. So if Dahaka wants to go try to solo the top, that's fine. He does put himself at a disadvantage, but as long as they don't push with the boss, the 4 members of your team can try to defend the boss, and Dahaka can try to solo the top temple, so at least you split the temples. However, Dahaka needs to be very careful. If the other team shows up in any kind of force, he's going to die. So if I were the opposing team here, the ETC Butcher team, you have to know they're not going to rotate past the boss down to the bottom keep, or bottom temple. So the only temple that the blue team can go to is going to be the top temple. And if there's anybody up there, they're not going to be in full force. So if I'm this ETC Butcher team, I leave 1 person who can solo the shrine bottom. That's ETC or Karazim or Butcher. And I send everybody else to the top temple. That way you're pretty secure that you're going to get the bottom one. You may kill somebody at the top one, and you'll get both temples. So that's what I would do if I were this ETC Butcher team to secure both temples. Send 1 person bot, send the rest of the team top, because you know they're not going to rotate past all that stuff and get to the bottom temple. The only one they can get to is the top, and they have to send some people to deal with the boss. So you should be in an advantage both places. You're too far forward, Obi-Wan. You're definitely too far forward. Yeah, so our hero here is going to go down. Unless Brightwing saves him. Excellent Emerald Win. Completely saved Obi-Wan. So Obi-Wan was too far forward there. You just have to be aware of Butcher and ETC and your own escapes. Brightwing completely bailed out Arzul there. Nope. Let's see what's going on top. So one of the disadvantages to Chromie is she can't do a lot to D the bosses. Her W is on such a high cooldown. She can drop that on it, good to do okay damage. But then all she does is auto attack. Her auto attacks are very weak, and her Q can only hit heroes. So Chromie went up top to help Dahaka. It looks like Red Team might be doing something similar to what I said. You have 1 person in the bot, and then you said 4 members top. If that is the case, you're going to have a 4-on-2 here in this top lane. So I'm actually going to focus on that. I assume they'll blow down this boss pretty quick. So Who's going to win in a fight? A ETC, Jaina, or a Dahaka Chromie? Well, she just wasted her Blizzard cooldown, and Chromie just wasted her W, so this will be interesting. Now, Chromie and Dahaka here should just be leaving. They have no vision on the enemy team, and you have an enemy team that's acting aggressively towards you. When the enemy team is acting aggressively towards you, I assume they've got help coming, and you know, as Dahaka and Chromie, you don't have help coming. So I would just leave, because chances are only bad things are going to happen if you stay up here, and you're going to put your team further at a disadvantage. And now we have Brightwing teleporting in to more trouble. Well, they did manage to get the Jaina, and here comes the rest of the red team. Well, and here's now you always want to check. Looks like we're gonna have a team engagement over here top. That actually went better for Azul's team than I thought it would. So anytime you're gonna have an engagement, you want to check out what's going on. Look at the mini-map. This is gonna be a 4-on-4 with 2 members dead. Your Chromie will be up first, so if you want to get into a little poke war and stall, that'll actually put your team as an advantage. And the other thing you want to check, talent tiers. Both teams are at level 16. They're even on talent tiers. So if Butcher's team chooses to take this engagement, they want it to happen quickly, and they want to blow somebody up before Chromie can get here to help out at all. At 15 seconds in the ride time over here, she probably won't get here in time, but if it turns into a long, drawn-out poke thing, it's possible she could. So it looks like the Butcher... Okay, this is a problem. You have 4 members on this temple, and you have 0 vision. You have an ETC and a Butcher with both have hard crowd control. There's no reason to have all 4 people on this temple. And you want to try to keep some vision in the lane to give your teammates a warning that they're going to be jumped. Jaina has Ring of Frost. I don't recall her using it recently, and you're all clumped up right now. So this is something that shouldn't be. When you're on an objective like this, 1 or 2 people is plenty if they're the right people. And you want to keep people down here. Keep vision. Just do it properly and don't get caught out. There's ways to do that. One. Yep, there's a 4-man power slide. There's the Butcher charge on the Vala. Vala's going to die, no doubt about it. So when Butcher walked in there, it looked like he didn't do much. He kind of walked up forward and came this way. Exactly what he did is he gave his entire team the whereabouts of their opponents, all of them. So you have Zul's team had no idea, other than Butcher, where their opponents were. And Butcher's team, everybody knew exactly where all of their opponents were. ETC got a great power slide, 3 or 4-man power slide. And then Butcher was allowed to lock down the Vala and kill her. So a Chromie is on her way now. This is going to turn into a disjointed fight. We're going to see how this goes. One of the things with Dahaka as a solo tank is he doesn't have traditional peels, so it's hard for him to help his teammates. And this Dahaka hasn't been doing that great with that anyway. Red is doing the proper thing by trying to withdraw, but I mean, they're just caught in a bad spot. All of that. Nice, almost a great temporal loop. Chromie's going to die here to the Butcher charge. Butcher is such a great counter to Chromie. All of this, that whole team fight, that entire team fight was predicated on the fact that they didn't have vision on their opponents. You knew exactly where the enemy team was. So you have to keep some kind of vision out there so that kind of thing doesn't happen. Well, before that, this game was pretty even, but now red team is pulling out ahead. They're probably going to get a keep out of this with the temple, and they already have 1 keep down. So at this point in the game, when you're blue team, Zul's team, by the time their whole team spawns, they're going to be down 2 levels. So the only thing you're trying to do right now is get to level 20, because that's the next time you're going to take a team fight, or should be, at level 20. your win conditions are still up here. If you get to a 5-on-5 at level 20 and you kill the enemy team, our blue team can absolutely still win this game. But from now on, their whole focus should be on not dying, not giving up the game, and soaking until level 20. Yeah, we do have a little salt in here. This is really aggressive. This is really, really aggressive.
The magic of the temples.
And this is why. Hopefully Butcher was coming down here by himself. He has been soloing camps all game. But if your team gets caught here, you're going to put yourself even more on a back foot. This is a really aggressive play by Dehaka and Brightwing. Yep, and that's why. You had no vision on the enemy team. You have to know where the enemy team is when you do that. As soon as Butcher showed up, they both should have gotten out of there. And now you have staggered death timers. You know, they could have been all 5 up and grouping, and instead, you're down once again. What I want to see red team here is group together and go clear the bottom catapults right now. Right now, the enemy team is at the Siege Giants. That's where they're at. Oh, I'm shocked. Once again, we split with a 2-on-2. Now you know where the enemy team is. Okay, so if they would have started this giant camp after this camp popped, that's probably okay. But before this camp pops, you need to be really careful because you didn't know where the enemy team was. This game is still winnable. I know there's some salt and some frustration. This is definitely still a winnable game. I mean, it's not where you want it to be, but it is definitely winnable. This is what you do not want to happen. You just saw the enemy team take this top bruiser camp. You have no vision on them whatsoever, and your team decides to come up here. Chromie should not be the first person in here. If she goes in here and the enemy team is up here, she's going to die. Or now Dehaka's going to die because he blindly teleported him. So, fortunately, they were both astute enough to not poke their heads in, but this is why you can't have your squishies out in front. Dehaka needs to be the first one in. And this isn't bad what red is doing. Now, from blue team's perspective, this is not a fight you want to take if they're coming down here to fight this. It's a 5-on-5. You're on even talent tiers. You're not at any advantage. Since you're up in level, you really want to fight only if you're at an advantage. They should be going down, pushing these 2 lanes out, really putting all this pressure on the red team. So as red team right now, if blue team tries to take this fight and you think you can take it, you should take it because you'll be at even talent tiers. We're seeing a lot of this game, the backliners being way too far forward. Way too far forward. Positioning is very important, and keeping in mind where you're likely to stumble into the enemy team is really important. If you think the enemy team is supposed to be coming from a certain direction, you need to know your role on the team. Alright. The enemy team has vision. This is good. This is what you want. You want the tank and Zul and the tank should be the first ones in here. But you also have to be aware that in this vision, the enemy team knows exactly where you are. There we go. Now, you don't know where Butcher is, and you don't know where ETC is. They're probably in these bushes right here. There you go. So when you're going to these team fights, you have to take into account the enemy team's capabilities. The first thing I said is you don't know where Butcher is, and you don't know where ETC is. So how do you resolve that? Well, you need to scout a little bit. Maybe Chromie throws something in here. If Brightwing is really Johnny on the spot. I don't know if Brightwing took cleanse, but would have been. She did not. Oh wait, no, she did not. If Brightwing was really on Johnny on the spot, once she saw Butcher charged in, she could have pre-cleansed Butcher's target to avoid Zul dying. But when you engage like that, with the enemy team was here first, you 100% know they were here first, and you don't see Butcher and ETC, it's a trap. It's 100% a trap. And unfortunately, our hero, Obi-Wan here, took the brunt of that. Furthermore, look at this team formation. Dehaka, who should be the first one in there, goes this way. He's in zero position to protect his backline at all. Zul was actually in a good position to protect his backline, but he got exploded. If Dahaka is right here, and maybe Dahaka gets charged instead of Zul, Dahaka can do his little drop into the ground thing that he does that I don't know the name of it. He's much more likely to survive that than a Zul. So now you automatically have a 5-on-4, and this goes back to decision making. Red team, or our blue team, Obi-Wan's team, is not going to win this game. This battle, this team battle, they're not going to win. It's 5-on-4. Your team is in a terrible situation. If they lose this temple, will they lose the game? No. If they lose this team fight, will they lose the game? Absolutely yes. So once Zul dies here, the correct decision for blue team is to get out of dodge. Because the way to not lose is to not lose this team fight. That's a great okay. Brightwing here made such a good disengagement with the Emerald Wind and then hung around. Once she did that, everybody should have scattered to the wind. Everybody should have been gone. And instead, they're hanging around. Nobody should be staying here. Who's going to protect? Look at the heroes here. You have a Vala, a Chromie, and a Brightwing with a Butcher and an ETC on top of them. These heroes are going to die very quickly. I mean, this salt doesn't do anything. Now, if blue had won this of 5-0, I would say just go to the core, but with only 3 people, I would maybe go to boss and then temple. One of the things I found frustrating in the lower leagues, the bronze and the silvers, both when I played there and playing on my brother's account, is so many people don't know how to take advantage of the win conditions. 3-on-1, it's just going to be hard to go to the core, especially because you don't have your healer. So you're not going to do that. But these 3 could go down to the boss, get the boss, and then come back up to the temple while they deal with the boss. That's what I would do. But knowing when you can win the game is really, really important. I had a game the other day where we team wiped the entire enemy team at level 23, and they had 0 keeps up, and I start pinging the core. So if you take one thing from this stream today, if you're at level 23 and the enemy team has no keeps and you kill them 5-0 and your entire team is up, always the right move is to just go kill the core. Always, always, always. Our team decided to boss and then go to a temple, and we ended up throwing. It was terrible. Always, always go to the core. If you're at level 20 plus and you 5-0 the enemy team, almost all of the time the right move is to go to the core. There's very few situations. Most of the time you're going to go to core and end the game. Blue has not quite won this game yet, but they're very, very close. If Karazim was still alive, the 4 of them could go to core and probably end. So let's see what red does. If I'm red, I want the boss and the temple out of this. That's what I want.
So that's what death feels like. I miss it already.
And I will say, the last 2 losses, team fight losses, that blue has had here, have been on positioning and awareness of the enemy team. 100%. They are not correct. Butcher isn't what's destroyed them. It's been their lack of awareness about where Butcher is and what he's likely to do. Really, Brightwing needs to be saving her polymorph for Butcher on the charge as well. So they're going to try to go defend boss here, and that's fine. Ideally, you don't want to take a fight 20-19. Okay, that was silly. That was really, really silly of Dahaka. A lot of time... Well, let's see how this turns out. I'm very curious. Knight, that was a excellent boss deal by Brightwing. Really well done. And just maybe saved them the game. Okay, we were just talking about win conditions. This is very close to a win condition for red team. The only bummer is their healer is not with them. If, let's say Zool had died and Chromie was still alive, this is a win condition. You have your 2 damage dealers, you have your healer, you have your tank. If they can get Jaina and push with the boss here, I mean, maybe, maybe not. Very close. This is very close to a win condition here for them. I want to see them all push with the boss. Maybe get this camp on the way, that's fine. But this is indecision. This isn't going to work. And don't go backwards. No. Maybe get this giant camp and push with the boss. Everybody should be pushing with the boss right now. This is a poor decision. If the 4 of them wanted to get this camp, they would have done it quickly, and that's fine. But once all 4 of them aren't doing it, leave it and go with the boss. Chromie is 100% right here. This boss is no, definitely not. Leave the stupid camp alone. Push with the boss. They're throwing away at a chance to even up this game or take the lead. See, that took entirely too long. By taking this camp without the 4 of you, if the 4 of them would have done it, was fine. But by taking it just the 2 of them, you allowed Kharazim by himself with powers to defend against the boss and take it down to half health. If the full blue team is here, Kharazim cannot step into range to do that because he'll get melted by the ranged characters. He could not have defended there. He would have just had to back up. Or maybe he would have died. This Vala really hung his team out to dry. So by going back to this camp, he soloed the camp and took his health down so low that he had to be back, effectively negating his contribution to the team here. So not only did he go back and not help with the initial push, but he damaged himself so much by getting the camp that he had to beat. What I think Vala should have done is come. I know he was low on life, but your Brightwing's going to be up in 15 seconds. You could have stayed near your Brightwing and saved yourself the time. Maybe you could have done something else over here to contribute to your team, even at low health. And learning how to, by the way, contribute to team fights at low health is a skill. It takes time, but learning when to do that is a good thing, because a low health character can definitely contribute to a team fight if done properly. Okay. Now, at this point, our team needs to leave. The boss is basically dead. You're not going to get much more with the boss. With no healer here, Obi-Wan is very close to dying, and you have the entire enemy team coming up. What our team needs to do here, blue team, is disengage, go get these temples, and hopefully get the enemy team to stay and fight this boss. Yep. Now look, you've stuck around. Vala is all the way back here because of her poor decision making. And now you're going to have a 5-on-4 under the enemy core. And now the game is over. Now the game is 100% over. Vala is off. The fact that she soloed that camp took her out of the end fight here. That was a nice job by Chromie of doing the best she can, but this game's over now. Now, Brightwing's going to blame this on Vala, and that's true. Vala made a couple of poor decisions here at the end that really cost her team the game. However, as the 4 heroes that were over here, it is your job to know that Vala is not here. Once you realize that she's not here, it doesn't matter that she had a poor decision to keep her from coming over here. You have to leave. You have to leave. And a 5-on-5 under the core at full strength, you don't want to take that either. The boss is a non-factor at that point. Even if it was a 5-on-5, you don't want to take a 5-on-5 under the enemy core right after they all spawn. That means they're full health, they're full mana, all of their cooldowns are ready to go. There is no situation in which blue should have taken that fight under the core. If they would have left when I said, right when this keep is dead, everybody leaves. Now look at the map. You have level 20 to level 20. you have both keeps dead, and you have an absolutely 100% even game. By Brightwing stealing that boss, you could have evened the game and made it a coin flip, but by taking the fight under the keep, they lost the game. Did Vala help? Of course not, but you have to know where your teammates are when you take fights. And I mean, this is all superfluous. Vala's going to die, but it doesn't matter. And at this point, by the way, what I want to see Red do here is they need to ignore the temple and just go kill the core. There's no reason to take it. Actually, by taking these temples instead of going to the core, they are. Oh, Vala deliberately threw. That's a classy. By actually taking these keeps instead of going to the core, you're actually giving the blue team a last breath, because this game is over. If red team simply walks over to the core, the game's over. Instead, they're taking the temples. This is a classic example of what not to do. What did I say earlier? If you're a 5 and you wipe the enemy team and you're post 20, walk straight to the core. There's no reason to take these temples. It's not going to matter in this game, but if they would have just walked to the core, the game would have already been over. And Vala's obviously a troll. She needs to be reported. That's not cool. I don't think she did it intentionally, honestly. I just think she made a stupid decision. And this is not a bad desperation move here. You caught Jaina by herself, because at this point it's desperation time. So, I mean, you drove off the temple. You bought yourself a little bit of extra time. Now, what did I say, right? By taking these temples, you gave blue team one last breath. They're not going to win it. But if the game was already over, there is 0% chance of them staying in the game. Whereas now the game is still going on. Even if there's a 1% chance, that could still happen, right?
My temple's power.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point, but it would have been nice for the whole team to rush up here and maybe get a 5-on-4 and get lucky. There was definitely some salt in this game, but the majority of this game was poor decision-making and lack of map awareness. And Dahaka's right. He did sacrifice to stay in the game. If he wouldn't have gone up there and they get the temple, the game would already be over. The game should already be over. And by the way, 5v3s under the core have been won before. Is it likely here? No. I mean, red team's going to win this game. But let's say somebody misplays or something happens and our blue team gets extremely lucky and wins this, they're going to go on to turn it. That's why you end the game when you get a chance. Red team should have never gone to those temples. They should have walked straight to the core. Brightwing is right. Please report. Core defending heroes. Hey, Boo, welcome to the stream. Oh, you know what? I've never really thought about it in that terms. Well, core defending, I think, is a little bit different than, say, tower defending, because tower defending at your walls, you can, you know, hide behind the wall and poke safely. That's a good question. You want, I would say, high damage and self-sustain, and yeah, that's where I was going after that. And then people with CC to pin them down into the core. So I'm going to go two situations. Core defense with no enemy minions to soak up the core shots, because there's two different scenarios here. If there's enemy minions under the core, then the core is a little bit of a non-factor. So I would want high damage, high sustain. If that's if there are minions under the core. High damage, high sustain. So your Thralls, your Sonias, I would say. If there are not enemy minions under the core and the enemy team is going to take those, a hard CC. You want to anchor the team under the core to take those shots. Yeah, oh yeah, and actually Li Ming is good because of the reset. She's one of those people that can, you know, play a tic-tac-toe with her Calamity build, right? Tink, 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 tink. Yeah, Li Ming, excellent. And actually, you know what? Characters that can do high damage from within the core are good too. So Chromie, actually, you saw it in that last replay a little bit. Chromie was poking from within the core. So that's good too. But I hope not to ever have to pick heroes that are good at defending the core, because you don't really want to ever be supporting that. Yeah, I agree. Supporting in Hero League is tough. And the reason for that is you can't heal stupid, right? If your teammates are just making poor decisions, you can't fix that. So this is going to end our inaugural stream of the Bronze Age. I'm going to go every week, Monday at 5:30. During the Chair League season, I'm going to do one replay. Between Chair League seasons, I will do two, so we can get a little bit longer of a stream in. Yeah, it is. Ironically, though, Mitch, you hear about a lot of the big-name professional players are supports because they're kind of unsung heroes. You got a good support as like a melee assassin, especially a melee assassin. You can really, really help your team out. That's how I feel about Ariel, Boo. I like supporting if I'm on Ariel. So every Monday at 5:30, I'm going to be here streaming. I'll do one replay analysis. If you're bronze or low silver and you think you might benefit from having your replay analyzed, email it to me, bronzeageheroes@gmail.com. If you know anybody who you think could benefit from this, have them email me, bronzeageheroes@gmail.com. You can also follow my Twitch stream. Please do that. Follow me on Twitter. It's mongoose__22. So 2 underscores after mongoose. And be sure to check out my Chair League streams, all the other streaming I do. I just do it for fun because I enjoy doing it, but it's always more fun having people here in the chat room to interact with. I actually have a Discord, Boo, and I should utilize it. I will do that. All good suggestions. I do have a Discord channel, so I'll start utilizing it. Thanks again, everybody, for coming to episode 1. I will post it on YouTube, and hopefully today's hero, Hobie1, gets good use out of this. We'll see everyone around. Feel free to friend me if you'd like. And thanks again for coming in. Have a good night.